Greetings, America. This is 21st Century Radio's Hieronimus and Company, where knowledge comes first, reminding you that we're not just the people from any city or state in the Union. We're not just the folks from the east or west coasts of America. We're not only Americans, Occidentals, or Orientals. We are people from the planet Earth. We are Earth people. Have you ever noticed that you become tired after working in front of a computer for several hours? Do you sit within 2 feet of the display screen? Do you use an electric shaver or sleep with an electric blanket? If you say yes to any of these questions, you'll want to know how these modern items affect our life and are impacting on your health. Joining us this hour is Dr. Robert Becker, a 2-time Nobel Prize nominee and the author of Cross Currents, The Promise of Electromedicine, The Perils of Electropollution, published by Jeremy P. Tarcher in 1990. Dr. Becker is one of the world's authorities on the biological effects of electromagnetism, and he'll show us how we are adversely impacted by radio waves, microwaves, and other electromagnetic currents. He will also provide helpful tips to help minimize your chances of getting cancer and other stress-related diseases. We will also discuss the ancient origins of energy medicine and their modern fulfillment in acupuncture, homeopathy, visualization, and other holistic healthcare systems, which are based on the principles of resonance. We'll examine the genetic effects of power frequency fields, low frequency radiation, and altered consciousness. We'll learn how to make our own field measurements in order to create a safer living and workplace. Find out if the United States government knows about the biological impact of electromagnetic radiation when we return with Dr. Robert O. Becker to discuss Cross Currents, The Promise of Electromedicine, The Perils of Electropollution, published by Jeremy P. Tarcher in 1990. This is 21st Century Radio's Hieronimus and Company, where knowledge comes first. If you're living near high power lines, you can obviously have a few problems, especially in the increase in the likelihood of leukemia, especially if you're a child. Does it follow that using a microwave in your kitchen endangers your family's health? Well, Dr. Robert Becker has pioneered efforts to examine the biological dangers of electromagnetism. As a physician doctor, not like a PhD like myself, friends, us lowly PhDs. As a medical doctor, he has seen the benefits of using electromagnetic energy to regenerate bones as well as helping other diseases. So tonight we'll explore the history of electromagnetism in medicine, its future, and environmental dangers associated with electropollution. Welcome to 21st Century Radio, Dr. Becker.
Well, pleasure to be here.
Same here. You know, in a recent conversation I had with Thomas Bearden, he said you should have received the Nobel Peace Prize for your work on the O cell. What was he referring to when he was talking about the O cell?
I haven't the vaguest idea.
You've done so much important work that Well, that's what Thomas said. You remember Thomas?
Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah, he's quite some guy. And he and Chris Bird, as a matter of fact, it was Chris Bird over some 18 years ago that introduced me to your particular research. He was the best man at my wedding back in the old days. How did you get interested in the study of electromagnetism?
I get asked that question, very, very frequently, and I've got about 5 stock answers. Depends upon the audience, but for you and your audience, I'm going to say I really don't know. I've always been more interested in basic biology. That's how living things work. Then I've been really in medicine, to tell you the honest truth. And what I tried to do in my career was combine these two interests. And one of the things as a physician you learn very early on is that you really don't heal anybody. Every patient heals themselves. You just help them to heal. And the process of healing, if you're a surgeon, is what we call repair, growth and repair of damaged tissue. When I first started out in the late 1950s, this was pretty much an area of mystery. And what I did was I combined a very old interest that I've had from my days of undergraduate work in regeneration. That's the animals that can regrow a missing part, with the healing of bone fractures, and where the idea came to me to look at electricity as a possible factor that was involved in regulating and starting this sort of thing, I don't know. It came out of the blue.
Well, now you mentioned something about medicine and energy medicine. That obviously dates back millenniums, but when a modern physician such as yourself uses the term, what do you mean by it, and how does it relate to our own electromagnetic system within our own bodies?
Well, I think there are a lot of definitions of energy medicine that are bandied about now. My own one is basically that I look at energy in the same way that a physicist looks at energy, and there are only certain number of different forms, and the one that I refer to when I think of and talk about energy medicine is the energetic systems within the body that are the basic, that play a basic governing role. And these are electrical and electromagnetic in nature.
Well, you know, many of our guests have shared information about visualization, homeopathy, acupuncture, the effects of prayer and healing, etc. What do all these systems of healing share in common, and why do you believe that they are vital to the future of medicine, Dr. Becker?
Well, okay, that could take up the next half hour or so.
Well, give us a synopsis of a couple of minutes.
I'll cut it as short as I can. What seems to be a diverse group of therapies, you mentioned visualization, prayer, meditation, acupuncture, etc. All of these are termed energy medicine or techniques of energy medicine, and a lot of different energies are invoked as being responsible for the useful effects that each of these techniques obtains. It is my belief, and this is founded in good part upon work that I've done over the past 35 years, that all of these techniques, even down to the lowly placebo, if you want, function in the same fashion. They influence these electromagnetic energetic systems of the body through the way we think about it. And it has to do with, of course, the central nervous system, but this is functioning not in the same way that we think the nerves function, but on a much more primitive level, and that is the actual flow of very small electrical currents associated with the central nervous system. And it's these currents that bring about the healing effect in everything from acupuncture to visualization to you name it.
Tell us a little bit about the theory of resonance. What is the theory of resonance all about?
Well, it's not really a theory. Resonance does occur. The problem that was faced more recently, and the resonance business comes out of the environmental aspects of it, where you have a problem in that very small, very low power, very low frequency electromagnetic fields had definite biological effects. Now, science is kind of funny. Modern science is no different than science in the 1600s or earlier, and it doesn't like to. First of all, it has several characteristics. The foremost of which is it doesn't want to change. Every scientist generally likes things exactly the way they are because that's what he learned, and let's not rock the boat. But the problem, the second problem is that science wants to say, well, there has to be a reason. This has to fit into a certain mechanistic position, and we have to have a way whereby this is reasonably we can reasonably say, yes, it could possibly work. And when you're talking about extra low frequency, very low power electromagnetic fields, from a physics point of view, there just simply was no possible way that these kinds of things could influence the operations of a chemical system such as the human body, or anything else that's alive for that matter. As work went on in this region, a number of people began proposing that it was not really a simple business of the power of the electromagnetic field, but the subtleties involved in the frequencies of the electromagnetic fields, the strength of the Earth's geomagnetic field itself, that operated together in a series of well-recognized resonance phenomena, but ones that were mainly concerned with outer space and the operations of charged particles in the Van Allen belt and things of this nature. So the resonance concept is necessary in order for us to provide a rationale for the effect of very small electromagnetic fields upon living organisms. And this also applies not just to the artificial electromagnetic fields that we manufacture for power and communication purposes.
We have to pause right here, Dr. Becker. We're going to pause to let some of our stations identify themselves. Okay. Well, friends, now we're going to get to, we do have a question from a caller who didn't want to go on the air. We're going to get to his question a little later on, but I want to ask about cancer. Why do you think so many people are getting cancer today, Dr. Becker?
Well, first of all, I think there would be people who would argue with you and say that there really isn't that many people getting cancer, but it's my opinion that this is really happening. And that our method of gathering medical statistics in the United States leaves a good deal to be desired. I think that we really are seeing an increase in the rate of cancer that seems to be inexorable. It seems to be going up at the rate of about a percentage point every couple of years or so. Now, obviously, there are a lot of causes for cancer. There's no question about that. There's no question that there's a statistical relationship between cigarette smoking and lung cancer. And we're exposed to a whole bunch of carcinogens in our everyday environment. Many of the synthetic chemicals that are now manufactured for a wide variety of reasons are carcinogenic. But underneath all of this, I think that there is another factor which, whether or not it's going to turn out to be the most significant, most important factor, I think it will be one of the most important factors, and that is the electromagnetic environment that we're living in today. Of all of the changes that man has made in his environment through technology, the biggest change of all has been one that we cannot sense. There's no way we can tell with any of our senses that we have so changed the Earth's, the global electromagnetic environment, that it is the most massive change of all. It's far beyond any greenhouse effect or ozone hole effect or water pollution or soil pollution or what have you. This has become a massive global alteration that was done without a thought, without any evidence that there would be any harmful effect.
Well, we'll get to that, friends. It's time to pause for another brief moment to allow a few of our stations to rejoin the network. Yeah, all right. Now, we were talking about global electromagnetic environment, which is obviously, you can't see it, but it's out there, and it certainly is changing things in this world today, especially in my opinion concerning cancer, but I guess I'm jumping a little ahead here. Our allopathic medical system has admitted its failure in their ability to successfully treat cancer. What do you think has been wrong with their approach?
Well, I think cancer has been viewed in the same light as an infectious disease. And the way medicine takes care of infectious diseases is to kill the invading organism. And the feeling has always been, and still dominates allopathic medicine, that the only treatment for cancer is to kill the cancer cell. Now, that gets to be pretty tough business when the cancer cell really is one of your cells. And this is why the concept of cancer chemotherapy, I think, is pretty much bankrupt. I have to be blunt about it, and I know a lot of people don't like this kind of statement, but I believe that's true. What's now turning out to be, and is being reported with ever-increasing frequency in the medical journals, is that a series of treatments with chemotherapy for one type of cancer not too infrequently leads to the development of a second type of cancer 3 or 4 or 5 years later. So we're using agents to kill cancers that are actually carcinogenic in themselves. Now, this is no way to go about it, in my opinion, and I think that really the answer to the cancer problem is basically twofold, and the first one is preventive, and in that light, I'll have to talk about what I like to talk about most of all, and that's the electromagnetic connection between cancer and this global pollution that we have produced.
Well, it's a good idea to talk about it right about now.
Yeah, if you stop and think, the Earth has a normal electromagnetic environment. The Earth's magnetic field is not a very simple thing. It's a very complicated beast. It has very specific characteristics, and it is the changes in the natural geomagnetic field are now coming to be recognized to have very strong biological effects on their own. Now, what we have done since the days of Thomas Edison and Marconi is we have changed the environment basically by putting into it frequencies of electromagnetic energy that never before existed. Now, if you think of the history of life, that's 2.5 billion years, give or take a couple of billion, in which living things began, evolved, grew, and reached their present state. And
Hold it right there. We'll be right back to that present state. We have to pause here at the bottom of the hour to let some of our affiliates take their station breaks, but we'll be back in just a few seconds. And we're back with all the birds and all, Dr. Becker. Sorry to break in on you there, but
that's okay.
We had to.
That's okay. Let me just recap what I said. That is that for 2.5 billion years, living things, humans included, lived in a certain electromagnetic environment, a normal global EM environment. And only within the past 50 years have we made these massive changes in that environment. And it's over that same period of time that we have begun having the problems with our medical care system, with what appears to be epidemic types of cancer that are appearing at the present time. I think there's a very definite connection, and I believe that connection should very certainly be looked at. Now, on the other side of the coin, the evidence is rather clear that abnormal, man-made electromagnetic fields do influence the operation of the genetic system when cells divide. They do influence the rate of division of cancer cells. They speed it up enormously. Now, if it has these kinds of effects, is it not possible that we could look at the whole range of effects of electromagnetic energy and the growth of cancer cells, or the origin of cancer cells, and possibly arrive at a position in which we could say, well, this kind of electromagnetic energy can cause a cell that has become cancerous to revert back to normal. And it's my opinion that this is a very feasible approach, and one that certainly ought to be followed. In fact, we are following up on this quite strenuously at the present time. There's no present therapy available, and I want to make that statement right here and now, so people should not think that I have some mysterious method of treatment. I don't at the present time, but I think that we have some very real rock-solid clues as to how to proceed in this direction. And this is the sort of work that ought to be going on. The cancer cell was a normal cell. Its genetic apparatus has been altered. It's become abnormal. If you make a change like that, there's no reason in God's green earth where you can't make that change go back again to normal.
As a matter of fact, do you call this de-differentiation?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I just love the first couple of chapters in the book in which you talk about the amputation of the salamanders, and then from that how it grows back. That has always been a great mystery to me. Friends, you got to get a hold of this book. You really do. As a matter of fact, before we go on to welcome our stations back, let me tell you the name of it once again. It is called Cross Currents, The Perils of Electropollution, The Promise of Electromedicine, published by Jeremy P. Tarcher in 1990. Call 1-800-333-3969, extension 326, and get a hold of a copy of this. And yes, we will get to one of our listeners' questions, but I just want to point that out, that de-differentiation, that is a process which is quite different than going out there and killing the cells, friends, because as you kill the cell, you absolutely can kill other things as well, especially with chemotherapy. Well, friends, right about now, it's time to pause for another brief moment to allow a few of our stations to rejoin the network. First, let me get to a question from a person at WARE, our friend out there, who listens to us in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Yeah, good old Pawtucket. I wonder if it has anything to do with Paw Patches. And his question was this. Do you know, Dr. Becker, about a current technology corporation in Vancouver who makes an electrostatic device like a hair dryer to prevent hair loss? Do you know anything about that, Dr. Becker?
No, I don't. I'm sorry about that. If I don't know about it, I really can't comment.
All right, but the hair dryer certainly could cause us some problems.
I wish I had a way to make hair grow. We've got some pretty classy techniques to make soft tissue and bone regenerate and grow in the human. And the terrible disappointment that I have had in this one. I just finished analyzing the last 50 cases that were treated in this fashion. These were acute traumatic wounds, and we've gotten regrowth, perfectly normal, fully flexible, fully innervated, indistinguishable from previous skin, with one exception: no hair.
Oh. Well, let's get to...
I could use some, so...
Yeah, I think we all could use some. I'm getting at the ripe old age of 47 now, and I'm losing some of my hair, and it's kind of tough. I think I wear too many hats. That's one of the biggest problems. But let's get down to some of the man-made electropollution problems that many of us get ourselves involved with in the home. What about let's examine the history of microwaves and their biological effects, and possibly discuss the safety of the microwave oven.
Well, the history of microwaves is so extensive that it's been the subject of a number of books, and it really needs that much attention paid to it, because the history is really fascinating. I don't think we can go into that at this point in time, but microwaves are different from extra low frequency, which comes off of things like power lines, only in the sense that the vibrational frequency of the field is very, very much higher. Microwaves are hundreds of thousands or millions of times per second, whereas the frequency of power systems is 60 times per second. Still, the biological effects at both ends of this electromagnetic spectrum, the very high frequency microwaves and the extra low frequency power frequency waves, seem to be about the same. Now, when you're talking about hazards such as this, you have to consider what we in medicine is called the dose rate. And in this end of the business, dose rate is the strength of the abnormal field to which you are exposed and the length of time that you would be exposed to it. Now, the leakage that the federal government permits microwave ovens to have when they leave the factory is, in my opinion, higher than the level at which harm has been shown to occur. However, the harm has occurred in animal populations that were exposed chronically, and it is for 6 months or longer, to that microwave frequency. The average microwave oven sits on the counter shelf in the kitchen and is turned on for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And very few people stand in front of it watching the food turn around. Most everybody puts something in, turns it on, and does something else. So the dose rate of microwave for the average individual is probably below the level at which harm is going to occur. Now, there are two exceptions to this. The first is if you've got an oven that's older or has been damaged in some fashion, it can leak an awful lot more. Therefore, every year you should have the oven examined by a competent service person, the leakage measured, and corrective measures taken if the leakage is beyond what's considered safe. The second exception is in places where people are using microwave ovens for their entire workday. That is someone who's in the fast food business and standing in front of a microwave for 4 hours or more per day. It's my opinion that they could be irradiated to a harmful extent, although I have to say no one has taken the time to do an epidemiological study of this.
Well, right now, friends, what we're going to need to do is take a break here. This is 21st Century Radio's Hieronimus and Company on Jeremy P. Tarcher Hour. Don't go away. We'll be talking more with Dr. Robert Becker, author of Cross Currents, The Perils of Electropollution, The Promise of Electromedicine, published by Jeremy P. Tarcher in 1990. We'll be right back. We talked a little bit about microwave ovens. Let's get to computers as quickly as possibly we can. Can computers be made safe to work with?
The average home computer, if it has a detachable keyboard, you put the keyboard where you can reach it easily, and move your computer back so that the computer and the screen, all of the add-on appurtenances like disk drives and so forth, at least 30 inches away from your head, and you are in what is probably a safe field. But if you have to be closer than 30 inches to the main body of the computer, then you are in fields, the density of which we know is at the present time harmful.
Harmful and could possibly cause cancer?
The link with cancer has not been demonstrated. Links, though, with miscarriages have, in my opinion, been very definitely shown.
What about power lines? This is one of the most important things.
Well, a power line, anything in which the power frequency current is circulating will put out a power frequency field. Now, a power line carries a lot of current. It produces a very strong field. But like all of these other fields, it drops off rather sharply with distance. So for each individual power line, no one can give any person a safe distance away to be. If there is a question, my advice to anyone who has those questions is to have the field density at their house measured and have it done more than one time to make sure that you're picking up times when there's a greater power demand placed on that high voltage transmission line. Again, it comes down to the strength of the field and the length of time to which you are exposed. Very general numbers, though, are presently available. If you are exposed to a power frequency field of 3 milligauss, a Gauss is a measure of magnetic field strength, a milligauss is a thousandth of a Gauss. So 3 1,000ths of a Gauss at your home, in your residence, or in your occupation, where you are exposed to it for 8 hours a day or longer, is hazardous. Period. No question about it.
Well, you know, we've measured the side of our computer, and that was about 14
That's correct,
milligauss.
Right.
And
that's correct.
Our laser printer, which we don't have, but a friend does, 300.
That's correct, too.
Whoa, mighty heavy.
It falls off rather sharply with distance, but you have to take these numbers into strong consideration.
Yeah.
I think the most dangerous piece of equipment, though, is the electric blanket, because the strength at body distance from the electric blanket runs between 20 and 60 milligauss. And of course you use such a device for, let's say, 6 to 8 hours per night. I will say, though, that most of the electric blanket manufacturers are aware of this. They are bringing blankets onto the market now where the field strength is markedly reduced. So you have to ask around a little bit. You may have to pay a little bit more, but you can obtain blankets that don't produce this field. The home computer is a real problem. The television set is a real problem, too. But again, if you can stay 30 inches from your computer, keep your kids back an average of 36 inches from the TV set if it's a 17-inch screen. If it's larger, move them back even further. Remember, with all of these devices, the field does not come from the screen. The field comes from the entire box.
Yeah.
And there is as much a field behind it as there is in front of it. And these fields penetrate right through the wall. So don't put a 17-inch color TV set against an interior wall and then put the infant's crib behind that wall.
Boy, that was very excellent information, especially for us folks who have young children right about now. And we've got a couple of minutes left, and there's so many other things we could cover and won't be able to. Maybe we can have you back again in the future to talk some more about this. But one of the most interesting things, or important things that I learned is you told us how to, in the book, use an AM radio to determine. Right. Could you quickly tell us how to use that AM radio?
You have to remember one thing. The AM radio cannot work for power frequency fields. It works for radio frequency fields. So it's useful for things like televisions and personal computers, things of that nature. You can't use it for determining the field strength of the electric blanket. The way you use the AM radio is it has to be a very cheap $5, $8 pocket AM radio, not a combined AM/FM. Must be AM, battery operated, little cheap device. You turn it on to full volume, pick a place where there's no station on the dial, place on the dial where you have empty air. Turn it off, turn on your TV set, and then turn on this little radio, and as you move it closer and closer to the TV set, you will begin hearing the most atrocious noise you've ever heard. When you back away from it, you will see that the noise diminishes. When the noise level has dropped to what it would be with the TV turned off, that's a safe distance. The same thing goes for your computer. And you'll find that these come out to be just about the numbers that I've told you before. 30 inches from the computer, about 36 inches from the TV set. But if you have a larger TV set or you're not certain about the kind of computer that you have, this is a real good, easy test that you can do in your own home.
Well, Dr. Becker, thank you very much. We're going to have to run out right about now, and we'll have you on again if you got the time.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Becker. That's a legend in his time, friends. We'll be talking more with him in the future. We'll see you in just a few minutes.